What's up, cool kids, and welcome back to another episode of the Langston Fraser Show. If you're a returning listener, welcome back. But if you're new, welcome to the show. This is a podcast where we hear fresh takes on some of the most interesting stories affecting the game of golf from both inside and outside the industry, featuring some of golf's up-and-coming names. Happy Tuesday, I'm your host Langston Fraser. Thanks for listening to the 7th episode with PGA professional Jasmine Cunningham. She's the coordinator of training and curriculum for the First Tee from the ATL, Atlanta, Georgia. If you haven't listened to that episode, I highly suggest you do, but I hope everybody's staying safe and practicing safe social distancing amid this COVID-19 pandemic. It's kind of getting better in some areas, kind of getting worse in others, but I hope you're staying safe, and I hope that this podcast can take a few minutes off your mind and off your day and kind of give you something to listen to. But if you're an avid listener to the podcast, you know this is where I typically do my sports update. But today, I'm going to do it a little bit different. I'm going to do it later in the show, and you'll see why. But with that, let's jump into the interview. This week, I sit down with Mr. Young Lee. He's a future PGA professional, and folks, you're in for a good one. You're going to hear that and so much more ahead after this quick break from our sponsors from Anchor. And with that, let's dive into the 8th episode of the Langston Fraser Show. So this is a guy who works in silence but makes a big impact. Some of his colleagues call him wise beyond his years, quiet but just downright funny, a dedicated golfer, incredibly kind. In my opinion, I think he's one of the most consistent collegiate golfers I've ever had the pleasure of watching, let alone reporting on. Young Lee, welcome to the Langston Fraser Show podcast.
What is up, Langston? I appreciate you having me on the show. I mean, it's about time.
How's everything going? How's the family doing?
It's going pretty well. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of tough situations going around because of COVID-19, but you just got to make the best of it. I mean, just find whatever opportunities you can. And also it's a good time for self-reflection. I mean, what you've done in 2020, what you've been doing so far in your life, and how you're going to move forward. So just been a lot of self-reflection and making sure you're healthy, your family's healthy. I mean, that's the most important thing.
Definitely slowing it down, kind of like you said, reflecting and kind of seeing how everything is going, because that's I guess one of the cool things or positive things I would say about this whole situation is everybody that I know is go, and you get to stop and kind of slow down and think and kind of replan everything. But I think it's has its positives and its negatives. We all know about the negatives. Positives have been we kind of get to slow down and kind of relax for a minute. But one of the things I do on my other podcast, Talk of the Shore, which I know you're into, is get to kind of meet the people who come on the show. And one of the things I kind of pulled from that podcast is getting to know where you're originally from. And can you describe it in 3 words and why?
Yeah, I mean, I was born and raised in Maryland. My parents came from South Korea, but they moved here when they were around 20, 30. So I was born and raised in Maryland, and I'm proud to be in Maryland, and I'm attending the school, University of Maryland Eastern Shore, as you know, and born and raised Maryland. I'm proud to be from Maryland.
Nice. Describe it in 3 words and why.
Maryland in 3 words, huh?
Yeah.
3 words. I would just say fun, always changing, and unique.
Fun, changing, and unique.
Yeah.
Folks, he almost did it. He almost followed in lines of the other guests that have been on this show and almost dashed his words and put multiple words into it, but he did it in 3 words. What makes it fun, unique, and interesting for you and unique for you?
I mean, first of all, I just think Maryland in general, you can even say the weather is always changing. One day it's really, really cold and then it's really hot the next day, humid. But, you always like to have a changing environment because, personally, I like to have environments where it's constantly changing because I feel like you got to adapt to different situations because it's like life. it's always changing. You gotta be able to change to it. And the people who can change and adapt to life the quickest will be the ones who be the most successful and who will make the most impact on life.
I agree. So let's jump into kind of the main focus of kind of your career right now, which is golf. What got you, or
Yes.
who got you into golf?
Man, this is going back in time, but so my dad got me into golf, as many people, whoever has like family or relatives. I really just you kind of just see them going out there, and you're like, hey, I want to go hang out with my dad, my mom, my brother, cousin, sister, whoever. And that's kind of just how I got into golf. My dad played professional golf for a little bit, did a little teaching when he was younger, played around on mini tours, and he would always drag me around the golf course, and that's kind of just how I got started. I mean, just hit one ball and I completely whiffed it, and next thing I know, I'm always at the golf course. I'm the one telling him I want to stay and I don't want to go back home.
Mm-hmm. I get that, but I think golf is one of the most, I guess, interesting sports you can play. It's the
Yes.
one you can start when you're a kid. You can play till you're 105.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think it's kind of adaptive sport, something that you can learn with. It's kind of like life. You get a
Yes,
few bumps in
definitely.
the road, but you move around it and you keep playing. Hopefully to get to that end goal or shoot that perfect round that you really want.
Absolutely.
So you lead on to this golf kind of experience, how your dad got you into the game, and we fast forward a couple years. Um, you get to play some high school golf, and then you get to come to this college road. How did you get to UMES to be, at the university and also in the PGA
Mm-hmm.
Golf Management Program?
Yeah, it's actually quite funny how I actually ended up at a University of Minnesota, and not only that, but the PGA Golf Management Program was. I'm a senior in high school, and you know, I mean, Langston, you've been through that process like many of us, like college applications, right?
Definitely.
And it's just a stressful time, and you kind of like just scurrying around. You get into colleges here and there, but most people don't realize with colleges, it's not a matter. It's one challenge to get into college, but also to be able to afford it. So
Right.
when I'm going through colleges and I'm kind of like deciding about that, I'm just realizing like, wow, I don't really have any money to really afford to go to college. It's just too expensive for me. I mean, so I was just kind of down, but obviously I always go back to golf. So one day I just went out on like my public golf course, Diamond Ridge Golf Course, at the time was my home golf course. Was just playing around the golf, and I just met this a guy there who was kind of telling me like, hey, are you gonna play college golf, or are you interested in being in golf? And I'm like, I mean, yeah, I mean, I'd love to. I mean, it's just the whole money aspect, and just couldn't really. I had to figure out some finance situation, and then he was like, "How about you attend University of Maryland Eastern Shore? They have a PJ Golf Management Program." And I was thinking, I'm like, "Oh, is there?" I mean, I've heard of PJ Golf Management before because I have a couple of my buddies, but I wasn't too sure about it. I was kind of hesitant. What is it really about? Because obviously, growing up, I've only known the playing side. I didn't know there was a whole different atmosphere of managing like your golf tournaments, your golf shop, your outside operations, and that's just how I got in. And he kind of just showed me the way and led me to a few people, and that's how I ended up to meet so many great people. I got to meet Billy Dillon, who is our obviously our PGM director. I met Chris Prosser, Dr. Chris Prosser, and one thing led to another, and I get to my freshman year, and here I am my senior year, and it's honestly been one of the best things that ever happened to me, and it wasn't even one that I had planned. I mean, you plan for certain things in life, but sometimes it doesn't work how you think. But I'm a firm believer if you work hard, something good will happen, even if it's not exactly how you planned. And I'm just so grateful how the things planned out. If I'd gone an hour earlier, an hour later, who knows? I might not even be where I am today.
That's true. I agree. Was being in the golf industry, as far as, golf professional, always like your end route? Did you have another career in mind before you even thought of, the PGA program?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was going to probably just go the typical engineering. I mean, that was kind of the thing. I was like, I guess they make decent money. I think that's like the route I chose. Like, but I never had any previous exposure. I didn't know that golf was a thing. I mean, that's one of my passion. But I'm like, all right, it's time for college. Maybe I should put that aside and find something else. So I'm just thinking engineering. But then I hear PGA Golf Management, and it's like, why why go to college and do something you're not sure about if you're going to like it when you already know you love something, which is golf.
Right.
And to get that opportunity, it's absolutely priceless. So
And
that was
I
an
think,
obvious choice.
the PGA, it's a running joke. The PGA likes this tagline of "turn your passion into a career," and
Yes,
that's literally what you've done over the last 4.5 years. And it's crazy that I'm saying 4.5 years because we're both about to get out of here and graduate.
exactly.
A semester apart, but we're gonna be out of here.
Hey, we're making it. It's all that
We're
matters.
trying to get there. But what's one of the coolest things or experiences you've had at UMES?
There's so many. I mean, it's first of all, I just think it's the overall atmosphere. Obviously, we always promote how much of a family we are because it truly is a family. We all know each other. We're all caring about, hey, how are you doing? How's your family doing? Which is beyond just hi, how are you, and walk away. And I'll always cherish those experiences with just everyone I met, including yourself, Langston. Just so many impactful things that happened and the connections I made and along with the PGA Golf Management Program, just the golf team as well, because it's so humbling to be able to even play on a golf team, let alone a Division One golf team, and just to be able to travel to all these states. Obviously, you're getting the opportunity to play competitive golf, but you're meeting so many other great golf players and great-minded people alike from other schools and even other countries. Like obviously, you have people coming from Venezuela, Spain, Australia. So it's just crazy to just see. The opportunities are endless, especially if I never came to UMES.
I agree. And one of the things that we're getting a common theme with these guests on my podcast is how golf is kind of interconnected, just
Yes,
not
definitely.
on the field, or on the playing grounds or on a driving range. It's through different stories, and that's what we like to do with this podcast. Kind of find the unique stories that blends us all together through this thing that we love, um, called golf. But you mentioned a good fact here that you played collegiate golf at Maryland Eastern Shore. Obviously, you're going into your senior season, your senior spring season, I should say. COVID-19 kicks off. Obviously, uh, no one knew what was about to hit us,
Yep.
but you guys were actually competing in a golf tournament the moment they canceled the rest of their season.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, that happened. President Anderson, who's the president of the University of Maryland Eastern Shore, said, "Hey, you guys are going to be on spring break anyway next week." At the time this was happening, add an extra 2 weeks. We'll assess everything and see if we come back. As you know, we never did. So your senior season, you're gearing up for the MEAC Conference Championships. Obviously, the PGA Works Collegiate Championship, as well. So you never really got to go out, the way you were probably and your teammates were thinking you were gonna go out, because it ended so abruptly.
Yep.
What was that experience like for you? Obviously, I'm looking at your bio here. Over your last 4 years, 17 rounds your freshman year, you had a 76.95 scoring averages, four par basically. Junior year, team MVP. Sophomore year, team MVP. Same thing for your junior year. Basically, all 4 years, you got most valuable player for the most part. You're a member of the student advisory committee. Like you had a stacked year, in a stacked career at Maryland Eastern Shore. Tell us about your time there.
First of all, I think it went by too quick in my opinion. But it's been absolutely just mind blowing in terms of how much I've changed from my freshman year up into my senior year. I mean, obviously, everyone in the program can tell you it's when I came in my freshman year, I was like the quiet person, just always standing on the side, just minding his own business. To senior year, just being able to mentor and just help out the underclassmen, the freshmen, the sophomores, and just kind of guiding them. And it's very humbling to see that because as I gone through my 4 years, I've met so many great people in the program who taught me to get out of your comfort zone and go to places that you've never gone to. Hence, I went out to my second internship was at the Broadmoor, Colorado. I'd never really been out of the States other than for traveling golf, but let alone for an internship. And that's because of people like you, Langston, who you kind of show, you're one of the many who paved the ways for the Broadmoor and just for us to just keep continuing on the legacy. And I think that's just one of the great things is just the mentorship that we have at our school and just how we look out for each other.
Right. I kind of think in a way it's kind of a championship mentality as far as you playing golf and how you approach just your work ethic, both on, the competing collegiate side of things, but also in the classroom.
Yeah, I mean that's honestly one of the biggest questions I get. Even now, I'm talking with some of the freshmen and sophomores. They're saying like, how are you able to do it? What is the key to just maintain student athlete just lifestyle? And honestly, it really comes down to I can't teach it to you. You got to be able to motivate yourself. You got to be able to discipline yourself to put in the time and have your priorities straight, especially when there's some times where we might be gone for 2 weeks because we have back-to-back tournaments. So you got to be able to take the initiative beforehand, contact your teachers, and get ahead with the classwork. So that way, when you come back, you're not behind. You're on point, or you already know where you're at. Versus not mentioning anything to teachers, and you go off on 2 weeks or 1 week, and then you come back and you're like, all right, what did I miss? You don't want to ever put yourself in that situation. You always want to know what is going on. You just always got to be one step ahead. So that's the one thing I stress, especially student athletes in general, and everyone can relate to this. But it just comes down to time management and having the discipline to stick with it.
And you speak from experience. Your junior year, you were named to the MEAC Commissioner's All Academic Team. Your senior year, you were on the MEAC All Academic Team again. You were the male scholar athlete of the season, probably one of the highest GPAs in the whole athletic department. So he's speaking from experience, folks, when he says, time management is a key thing, especially when you play, the amount of rounds and the amount of travel.
Absolutely.
These guys put on the road and in the air, as far as competing, being sharp in the classroom, but also sharp on the course.
I mean, it's not even just a college thing, honestly. Even I can see this as a whole life thing. You got to be able to time manage when you want to, especially if you want to do something and you're like, oh, do I have time for it? You got to really take an honest just self-reflection and find out where am I really, how can I say, like, you just need to find the times where you're like, oh, maybe I can take out 1 hour from maybe me going out. Maybe I'm going out too much. Let me take like 1 hour and put that hour into something that I really wanted to do. Say if I wanted to maybe getting more into, I don't know, maybe you really like to take photography and you're like, I really want to do more photography, but I don't have time. I mean, the question is, do you really have the time, or are you just not putting in the time?
Mm-hmm.
So you got to be able to just be honest with yourself and say, where can I pull out some of this time? Because I'm pretty sure 99% of the time you do have time. You just got to be honest with yourself.
Right. And you're coming up, we're going to get into your internships a little later, but your time as far as being a Hawk at Maryland Eastern Shore is kind of coming to an end. Do you have a certain memory or something that you're going to miss, or a main takeaway that you're going to get from your college experience, or at least your undergrad college experience?
And I guess like they say, time's coming to an end being a Hawk, but I don't think of it that way. I think of it as I'm forever a Hawk, and I will always carry the spirit, and I'll always cherish all the memories. And I know that the people that I've encountered and the people that I impacted in our program, and not just in the program, just whoever I met in school, I know that they're going to continue on like whatever I kind of impacted them. They're going to impact more people. So I don't ever think of it as an end, but it's just a new beginning. And I think for me, the memory that I cherish the most was definitely my senior year, especially when you have all these freshmen and sophomores coming in. And in a sense, they kind of pushed me to don't get complacent, just keep striving to be better, especially because on the golf team we have a couple freshmen. When I was a senior, they definitely pushed me to work harder, and I definitely see that my senior year in terms of my playing ability and my consistency was was probably the best throughout my whole 4 year college. It's just constantly pushing yourself, and don't ever get too complacent. So I would definitely say senior year has been the best year in terms of just the guys that were on the team and just constantly we're pushing each other, and we just always help each other get better every day. We even if we're doing bad or if we're doing bad times, we're like, hey, it's bad times. You're knocked down, but just get back up and just keep on going.
I agree. I agree. Now, in response to the whole COVID-19 pandemic that kind of went on, the NCAA granted, most of the fall student athletes and spring student athletes, pardon me, with an extra year eligibility. You kind of politely declined that option because we're going to get into it
Mm-hmm.
after we talk about this next topic for a really great opportunity when we get to your internships. But let's transition now. One of the biggest things in golf is majors, and I know you love golf, watching golf on TV, and you keep up on it pretty
Of
well.
course.
But this week is our major. We're both obviously involved with the PGA Golf Management
Mm-hmm.
Program, soon to be PGA member professionals in this great association. So it's our major PGA Championship week at TPC Harding Park. Who's your prediction for the big guy this week?
I mean, to be honest, I have a couple. But if I were to really just pick one, I'm gonna go with Brooks Koepka. I mean, he's constantly just that guy he just has that mentality, and honestly, I think that's what it comes down to in these majors is being able to have that mentality just to separate yourself from the field because it's not you playing against other people, it's you versus the course, and and that's what I really admire about him the most is his ability to just focus on himself and only himself. So if I
Right,
were to say
and
my pick, it would be Brooks Koepka.
Brooks Koepka. That's an interesting pick. Obviously, if you're not into golf, we'll be glad to fill you in. Brooks Koepka is the back-to-back PGA Championship winner, both in 2019 and 2018. Almost won it, or won the second major of the year. U.S. Open came second
Mm-hmm.
that year. Um, but Brooks has been on a roll, and his I watched his presser yesterday. With the Golf Channel. Yeah, I think especially because he has his knee fixed now, I think he's going to be a contender. He's not really from that area too much, but I think his skill and definitely the length of his driver and his
Oh
overall
yeah,
game is going to
that's
carry him
that's big.
throughout the week. But I think my picks for this week, my office pool pick that we're doing at my internship, I got Adam Scott. So
Okay,
obviously he
okay.
has some histories with the majors.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously winning the Masters. Been really up there within the rankings as far as finishes in the PGA Championship. Haven't played on the West Coast yet, but Adam Scott is my office pool pick. I also had Brooks, a common guy that everybody loves. Whole
Mm-hmm.
bunch of top 10 in majors as of recently, last couple of years. Ricky Fowler. Let's see if he's going to come through and break through the ceiling this time. Obviously, had a really good week a few weeks ago. Almost had it on the Sunday. Couple too many mistakes on the back nine.
Yep.
Cost him this round. But one of the guys who I think might have a serious top 10 look, Bryson DeChambeau. Obviously,
Definitely.
the guy is kind of redefining golf with the way of his golf swing, the one length irons, the way he builds his body, and the
Mm-hmm.
guy can just take a lash at it too. I think Bryson has a real good chance this week. What do you think about those picks?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm really favoring the long ball hitters on this course because you can kind of see the rough there was actually it's not really hiding the ball. It's nothing too major. So even all these long ball hitters, as long as they just get it somewhere down there and play, even if they're in the rough, they're still attacking these pins. Excuse me. But yeah, I'm definitely in favor of the long ball hitters, and Bryson was definitely up in my list because I mean he's just able to just rip the ball and not just rip the ball, but he's keeping it in play and he's just able to have these flick wedges onto the green. I think that's such a big advantage versus having a sand wedge versus someone coming in with an 8 iron. Obviously, shorter club, you're thinking shorter distance to the hole, and you're gonna have more chance to sink more putts.
I agree. But my second kind of honorable mention pick behind Bryson, obviously, Mr. Tiger Woods himself,
Of
going in
course.
his 16th major. Um, he actually got out there early last week, so obviously he was playing a practice round this morning, quick 9 holes. We'll see how he does. Um, let's hope that we have no injuries this week, and it stays warmish so his back can swing. But it's Tiger Woods. I think we're all going to be okay at this point. Um, Anything with Tiger Woods in it is great,
Of
and I
course.
can't complain. But it's going to be interesting without the fans being out there this week. We'll see what kind of happens, and as far as like the vibe, I think Bryson said that our Brooks said in his interview yesterday, like, when you make that turn into the parking lot, it's a major championship.
Hmm.
Obviously, Tiger said in his presser, it's a major championship because your body knows it's a major
Yep.
championship. So we'll see if they live up to their words, and obviously their play a little later on this week. But let's fast forward to next week and see if any of our predictions were right, and see who's going to be the top guy at TPC Harding Park in San Francisco.
All
And
right.
check out the other sports news in the Langston Fraser Podcast Sports Update. Welcome to the Sports Update. Here are your headlines. In college football news, it's going to be announced most likely that the Big Ten will be canceling their fall football season out of concern for COVID-19 and the safety and the well-being of their student athletes. The Detroit Free Press is reporting that if they announce it officially, then the rest of the Power 5 conferences will follow suit to be in sync. Now that's pretty crazy. I thought they were going to have the chance to hold on and possibly play some football and just playing inter-conference games and football games, but with the rest of the college world kind of shutting down and not having fall seasons, I think it makes perfect sense. But in NBA news, Zion Williams and the Pelicans are out of the playoff pictures after losing to the Spurs on Sunday, 122 to 113. 25 points put up by Williamson. That's complying with the Trailblazers, beating them to 76ers at 124 to 121, which basically puts them out of the picture. But we'll see who comes out on top over the next few weeks to see who's going to be in the playoffs, and eventually will win the 2020 NBA championship. In hockey news, the Rangers win the 2020 NHL draft lottery. They're going to get the number one overall pick to see who that number one star is going to be on in the hockey leagues. Now let's turn to amateur golf and a shocker. Gabriella Ruffles was hoping to repeat again to win the U.S. Women's Am, and the unthinkable happens. She lips out on the 38th hole to give Rose Zhang her first, women's Am win after starting in 6 of the USGA events. I think it's pretty cool. Rose Zhang is only 17 and she's from California, and she's going to be headed to Stanford. But the cool thing about it is it took place at Woodmont Country Club in Rockville, Maryland, right in our backyard. But if Ruffles would have won, she would have been the second person to win a back-to-back women's Am since Danielle King in 2011. I guess you're wondering how long that putt was that she missed? 3 feet. Well, let's now turn to some of the bigger names in our sports update. College golf. College golf is a big thing. I love college golf, but something really cool got announced today that I think is really just something that kind of sets the tone for this year, even though a fall season is not going to be played, but a spring season is going to be played. The NCAA announced today that the Lady Hawks of Maryland Eastern Shore have won the NCAA Public Recognition Award and it's basically bestowed to teams in NCAA that are Division One for academic progress rate in the top 10% of all the squads in their respective sports based off of May 2020. So congrats to them, the Lady Hawks, and Coach Dillon for all their amazing accomplishments over this year, past year, I should say, and going forward in the future. I can't wait to see what's going to happen with them. But let's turn to some LPGA news. This past Sunday, Lydia Ko just falls short in winning for the first time in 28 months by a shot and tying for second at 14 under par with the costly double bogey on the 18th hole in Ohio. But someone who I just mentioned, Daniel Kang, came out on top for the second week in a row in Ohio at the LPGA Drive On Championship at 7 under last week, and this week at the Marathon Classic presented by Dana at 15 under par. Now, if you're wondering how much money that is, $400,000 made over 14 days, that's pretty cool. Feet left, and basically after that it was over. No one else was going to get it, which was super cool for him to be so young and just win almost a month earlier to get his second tour win. So that means that's 3 wins for him in just about less than 14 months. That's pretty cool. But let's see the predictions and see who was right out of me and Young to win the PGA Championship. I thought Adam Scott was going to win. He finished at tie for 22nd. Brooks finished at a tie for 29th. Ricky Fowler missed the cut. And my honorable mention, Tiger Woods and Bryson DeChambeau finished at tie for 37th and a tie for 4th, respectively. Even though Bryson broke his driver early Friday and still hit it longer after he got his new one. And obviously, Young picked Brooks, so we were both wrong. But with that, let's get back into the interview with Young Lee. And for all your latest news in golf in the world of sports, visit golfchannel.com and NBC Sports. All right, Young, you're a gentleman of many skills, and you've been putting them to some good use over the last couple of years. You've been to a whole bunch of internships. Obviously, we talked about a little earlier in the interview that you declined to take an extra season with the Maryland Eastern Shore Hawks as far as playing collegiate golf, but it's paid off. You've been to Kenwood Golf and Country Club, Bethesda, Maryland. Obviously, you alluded to a little earlier as well. The Broadmoor hosted the 2019 USGA Senior Open Championship, also hosting in 2025. And then you went to kind of, I would say, one of the best golf courses in the Middle Atlantic. Congressional Country Club, a slew of majors and championships. Going to be the host to the U.S. side and the international side at the 2036 arrival. But currently, you're at Shinnecock Hills as a food and bev intern, host of the U.S. Open back in 2004, 2018, and will be the host in 2026. How's that experience going for you? How do you kind of come up with these kind of opportunities for you to kind of be at these major golf clubs?
Absolutely. I just think it's just starting from ground zero and just working my way up. Obviously, you mentioned I was at my first internship, Kenwood Golf Country Club, just your small local country club in Bethesda, Maryland. And I think it was a good place for me to start because it's a small country club, very laid back. So it kind of helped me to be comfortable in making that transition from the playing side to the business side to really see what goes on behind the scene when, in terms of your standard outside services, how the golf carts are set up and how junior clinics are done, how tee sheets are run. So I think that was just a good start for me, and I'm just forever grateful for that first humbling experience. It's just a good introduction for me into the industry, and just from there, I made a pretty big jump to the Broadmoor Golf Club in Colorado, which is actually a private resort. And as you know, 5-star, 5 diamond. And it's just a massive resort, very big, busting out, I mean, thousands and thousands of rounds. And it was definitely a big change of pace, but it's also good for me to get the smaller round aspect and the bigger round aspect, is to really get me well rounded with the place that was more higher pace. And it helps me to manage during like high paced situations and just to keep my calm in all kinds of situations. And then from there, I was able to go to obviously Congressional Country Club, which was another great experience, another big facility, 36 holes of championship golf, and being able to interact with so many different PGM students from, because we had about, I'd say it was about 8 to 9 interns from other schools, and just to get all those connections from other PGM schools was very humbling. And to hear where I'm at, Shinnecock Hills Golf Club, I mean, one of the best golf courses in the country. And not only that, but just in terms of the club industry, it's one of the top clubhouses and top clubs in the country as well.
In something that you guys as the listeners might not notice, but to me, as someone that's been in the industry, you know 7 years or pushing 8 years at this point, it screams general management to me. And
Yes.
something kind of clicked. You're telling me off air at Congressional kind of gave you this mindset with a couple of opportunities at school, to get in this general management field. What was that like for you? What kind of clicked at Congressional that kind of led you to getting in the GM side of the business, and what's your favorite part of it so far?
I mean, honestly, it obviously, it was kind of, the mindset was almost started freshman year, but I don't think I really started applying until I got to Congressional Country Club, because it's such a big club. I mean, you obviously have your golf, which is the main amenity, but you also have you got the swimming, the fitness, the tennis, and you have all, and the food and bev. And it really clicked to me, like saying, I'm here for golf, but why not learn about all these other resources? I mean, they're literally right there. I mean, so I approached the assistant GM, and I approached some of the supervisors who were in the food and bev, and I was kind of just reaching out to them, saying like, "Hey, do you mind if I shadow you over you guys for one day?" And this is one of the things that I want to highlight, is shadowing on your internships. It is so important to do this, because not many people do this. I wish I had realized this sooner, is being able to shadow under, whether if you want to do instruction, you probably want to be shadowing under the director of instruction or director of golf, or any of the teaching instructors at your facility. And I think this is just so crucial for shadowing, is it goes beyond just whatever's in your job description. And that's what I realize, is don't be restricted to whatever your internship says you're doing this. I mean, if you can, and more than likely, if you ask someone, they're going to be like, of course, we'd love to have you here. And that's kind of how it all started. I kind of went over to the food and bev side. I went over to the green and ground side of Congressional as well. So I kind of know basic understanding of food and bev, green and grounds area. And it's also so humbling just to see it's not just a matter of food and bev, just serving food and serving members and guests. And it's not just a simple matter of green and grounds, just cutting grass. I mean, there's more to it. There's a whole lot to it. And I think that was just such a humbling experience. And that's just kind of what it triggered me to just keep on learning and keep on learning. And I think that'll help me in the long run, just to separate myself from others and truly be able to communicate with all the departments, because sometimes it's certain clubs that there's just like this division. It's like, I'll focus on golf, you focus on food and bev, you focus on green and grounds, but it shouldn't be that way. You should be able to communicate
Right.
effectively
I,
with all
I,
the
I
different
agree.
departments.
I couldn't agree more wholeheartedly. Speaking the same language as far as, green grass and food and bev and what you're mentioning too, it kind of helps make your club a whole lot better. It makes your
Absolutely.
members happier, your guests happier. Obviously, folks that are not even playing golf are just coming to see what you have to offer at your facility. It makes them want to join your club or come play more golf at your public golf course, whatever type of golf
Of
course it
course.
is. It helps overall. But what's been your kind of You've done a lot. You said food and bev. You've kind of done the green grass
Hmm.
portion. You kind of did the maintenance side of things. What's been the most interesting part of that side of the industry as far as general management that you've learned over your 4.5 years?
I would definitely say the food and beverage side because there's a lot going on with it in terms of being the setup, and it's almost like your tournament operations. Obviously, you have a lot of experience with tournament operations, so you're kind of familiar. But there's
Mm-hmm.
so many things that go behind the scenes in terms of your tea times, etc. And that's the same for food and bed. We got to know, all right, how many people are attending? Do we have the right linens? Do we have the right silverware? Making sure that they're set up properly, making sure that especially with COVID, we got to make sure we got to follow all these protocols. And I just think
Mm-hmm.
it's so much attention to detail. And I think that's the biggest thing I've been getting out of this internship is being able to pay attention to the minute details because that's what separates the good clubs from the great clubs. It's just the attention to the smaller details.
And he says it perfectly. The minute details, the little details that people don't overlook. So if you're playing a tournament and it's going to be 94 degrees outside, don't bring out the boxed lunches at 9 a.m. and put them on the cart. Bring them out
Exactly.
at 12:40, 20 minutes before they're supposed to go out, so everything's cold and make sure everything's look perfect. And it's the way you present your club. It's the little things that people won't thank you for, coming up to you, but they'll take that as a mental note and they'll share that,
Exactly.
to their colleagues and their fellow golfers. Like, hey, go check out Shinnecock Hills or go check out the peninsula in Delaware, wherever you are in the country, or just your local small little course. I think it makes a world of a difference to the golfers once they bring them back into kind of the golf industry as far as playing but enjoying the game and working in it as well.
Exactly.
Um, but leading on, obviously, the tournaments, obviously, that leads back to the golf course. What's some of your favorite golf courses that you've ever played? And how's Shinnecock Hills? Because I know you've had the opportunity to play at one before.
Yes. Absolutely pure course. I think it's probably the number one golf course I played in terms of, especially in terms of a walking course. It is probably one of the best walks. It's very link style golf course. You have your high fescue and it's just such a beautiful walk, especially when you're playing in the late afternoons. You kind of see the sunset and there's so many undulations and so many high peaks and low peaks on the golf course where it's just absolute great views to be, driving a ball down the center of the fairway.
Well, he says that so casually, folks. Little did he know I was gonna mention it. He should have knew it was coming. But what was it? 3 years ago, you were doing a long drive contest at PGA Merchandise Show in Orlando, and you almost won. I think you won, or you came in second place at the Ping. I think long drive challenge. And what did you hit it like 370 something?
Yeah, it was like 370. I don't know if it's really true or not. I'm being a little modest here, but I did crush that ball, and I think it's one of those fun things too. It just let it rip sometimes. I mean, golf is pretty complicated as is, and why not just full send it?
There you go. There you go. Keeping it simple. That's one of the best things you can do when you're playing golf, especially
Exactly.
from the instruction side. I know we've both got a little experience doing instruction, especially with juniors and young adults and whatnot.
Hmm.
A lot of golfers can't really comprehend 15 things and everything that every golf network and video says. Oh, try this. Keep your shoulder closed. Open your flared foot. Work on your spine angle 23 degrees
Yep.
and keeping it simple, giving them one, two things like, oh, just make sure your shoulders closed and act like you're string pulling it back with a club. That's all they need. They don't need a whole bunch of details and track bands until they get kind of more experienced. And, it's fun to play around with that stuff, but I'm
Hmm.
kind of the golf pro where you kind of do everything by eye, not so much by doing it by a radar and a TrackMan. If you can see ball flight, and our director at our program, who's also the head golf coach at Merrill Lynch Shore, Billy Dillon, who's a 25-year professional, tells us if you can learn it by your eye, most likely you won't need a TrackMan. And he preaches
Exactly.
it all the time. And, going through these internships and these kind of experiences really tell you that. and you get to see firsthand how these golfers learn in and day out. But kind of going back to the golf course, you said Shinnecock Hills is your by far one of the best golf courses you played. What's your lowest round that you've ever played?
Oh, so lowest round in a tournament play that I've had was 70, which I believe was in one of our collegiate tournaments. It was in Virginia, I believe.
Yep, it was
And
in Virginia. Let's see here. It was the second round of the Virginia State University Fall Classic back on October 22nd, 2019. Um, two under par 70.
yeah, so that was definitely a good round. And I just look back on just some of those rounds, and you got to really look at the, the the good notes and just take the good notes from there, because obviously it's something where if you can do it once, you can keep on doing it. And I just think that's so important, especially in the game of golf, is just keep looking on the good stuff. You can't ponder about the bad things. Bad things happen, but once you do something good, if you know you birdied hole one before, you know you can do it again.
Absolutely. So kind of going forward as your career progresses, obviously you're scheduled to graduate in December or let's say November for us starting school early. What's next for you? Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
I mean, it's almost hard to say. You obviously always have a plan. You're like, I want to work toward this, but obviously, I don't think you can really say, because life is always changing. You never know what opportunities can happen. I mean, it's just like when you coming to UMES. I would have never thought I would have ended up here in the PGA Golf Management Program if you had asked me my freshman year, hey, where do you see yourself in 4 or 5 years? So I think it's almost I can't really answer that. I mean, I'm a big player of going toward the opportunities and making the best out of each opportunity. So, but definitely I would love to stay in general management, because I love the idea of being able to comprehend the entire facility and gaining a general understanding of the entire facility and knowing what's best for the club.
Nice. One of the things, and you kind of you said it just a little bit ago, for that high schooler or that young junior golfer who might just play golf now recreationally, who might be looking into get into the golf industry or might not know what opportunities could be available to them within the golf industry. What advice do you have for young people getting into your line of work?
I would just say if it makes you happy and you know you love golf, I mean, I just say go for it. I mean, there's no point of you doing a job or or as the great Bill Hughes would say, job, which is just over broke. You don't want to ever get stuck in you don't want to ever get stuck in that kind of situation. And I'm a firm believer just doing something that makes you happy, and over time it's always going to pay off. You're going to be happy with what you're doing, and I love golf, and I'm glad that I'm in the industry.
There we go. Well, it's time for one of my favorite parts of the interview. Time for the fast five.
All right, let's
I'm going
go.
to give you 5 questions that I have not told you before the interview started. That you'll hear for the first time.
Okay.
Some common golf questions, kind of little wacky, and just to know you outside of the golf industry and just golf in general. So the first question is, what is your dream foursome, including yourself?
Including myself, definitely gonna have to be Tiger Woods has to be in there. That's a no brainer. Tiger Woods, Gary Player, and I'll. Oh man, this is hard, but I'm gonna have to pick Arnold Palmer. So
Ooh,
such a gentleman on and off the golf course.
a group of legends here. Good
Yeah,
choice.
absolutely.
Very good choice. Now, obviously you're just a long hitter, because you're just, Mr. 370 yourself. What's your favorite golf shot to play on the golf course?
I mean, honestly, I love hitting the driver, because I just think that just sets it's. I mean, it's the first shot that you're hitting off of the tee box most of the time, and I just think it just sets a great foundation for your round. If I know my driver is playing well, I feel confident about every other club, that whether it's my iron, my putting, because I know that I'm kind of setting up myself for success. So favorite shot will have to be just a driver, little 5 yard draw down the middle. That'd be my go to.
Nice. I know you're a guy of many travels. What is your one bucket list travel place you would like to experience?
I would definitely love to go to New Zealand. I think that's a little
Nice.
like unique spot. I think it has nice like just like I believe they have auroras there, so I think that'd be kind of nice. And also they have a lot of nice golf courses there. I'd love to kind of go out, and it's kind of a unique area. I don't think many people think of New Zealand as a golfing destination or whatnot, but it has a lot of great golf courses there. So that would definitely be in my bucket list. Would be New Zealand.
Nice. Let's see. Well, you've already mentioned that Shinnecock Hills is one of your favorite golf courses to play, but what's one course that you would like to play?
I would love to play. I would love to play Cypress Point in California. I think that would be the best experience. You're right by the Pacific Ocean on pretty much every tee shot. If I ever get once in my lifetime, that would definitely be the bucket list golf course right there.
Sweet. And one of the most commonly asked questions that I get, as far as from my members and folks I play from, it's the last question of the Fast Five. What's currently in your golf bag?
Well, in my golf bag, I always carry a stone that has a cross in it. And I always touch it right before a golf round, before especially a golf tournament round, just to kind of give me good luck and just to take it one shot at a time and just trust myself to perform.
Nice. What's currently in the bag as far as club wise?
Club wise, so um, driver definitely got the Callaway Epic Flash. Got to always represent the driver. For and my 3 woods also Callaway Epic Flash. My irons are Mizuno. I'm forever a Mizuno player. Obviously, I in my opinion, best irons in the industry.
Hey, Mizuno, you hear that?
Of
Young Lee
course,
just said the best
sponsor me,
irons in the world.
please.
Sponsor him.
I've been playing Mizunos ever since man, I can't even think about. Ever since I started golf, I've always been a Mizuno. I was Callaway for a little bit, but as soon as I hit the first Mizuno, my Mizuno MP54s, I never looked back. Now I'm here. I'm still with Mizunos to this day. And for wedges, I got Titleist wedges. I'm just good old trusty wedges. I've been playing them for ever since I was in high school, so just stuck with it. And putter, just got this simple Odyssey putter that I actually found my freshman year in coach's office. I was kind of like, "Hey, coach, you mind if I take this?" And it's been here ever since. So it's been a solid 4 years.
Nice. Nice. Well, that's again the Fast Five. I got one fun fact that people might not know about you. Obviously, the PGA does a lot of great work as far as diversifying the game and having inclusion into the game. And they've definitely
Absolutely.
done a lot of gains over the last few years. You were actually the scholarship recipient of the PGA Works scholarship back in 2018, but you were also the recipient in 2019. What does that
Yep.
honor and that award mean to you?
I mean, I think it's honestly one of the best rewards to be a part of, not only just because it's a part affiliated with the PGA, which is what we're striving for, but just the initiative that they're going around it, and hence why they ended up making the PGA Works Collegiate Championship, where you're bringing all these diverse backgrounds into this collegiate tournament, not only just for competitive golf, but we have a career fair after the practice round where we kind of meet all these industries from, and it'll be from industries you wouldn't even think about. You might even see Marriott, which is more hotel, but they also have their own golf course affiliated, like the Ritz Carlton. There's so many other industries you would never think about, and I think that's honestly why it's such an honor to be not just one but a two-time recipient of the PGA Works, and also it's helpful to just get through college, because I mean college is not cheap, and it's just another funnel for us to get through and do and pursue what we want to do, and that's golf.
Nice. Well, Young, it's been absolute pleasure having you on the podcast. Before we let you go, where can the good people connect with you?
Man, if you want to connect with me, just I would just say LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn is so big, and I know it's going to keep on booming. So you can connect with me. Just type in my name, Young Lee. But I'm also on Instagram too, so you can just type in my name. I'm the first one to pop up. I'm pretty popular, you know.
Oh
Um,
gosh.
but yeah, those are usually my two biggest ones, Instagram and LinkedIn. I'm usually always around there, and if anyone wants to shoot me a question about the industry or just anything in general, I always love to give my 2 cents whenever I can.
Wonderful. Young Lee, I know you got a busy schedule. You're in New York, working, and I know you got some golf scheduled for later today, so I gotta let you go. But it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the Langston Fraser Show podcast. We'll definitely have to do it again. I know I won't see you for a couple months, but I'll see you when I see you, and I hope you're doing well.
Absolutely. Thank you, Langston. I do. And just give a little appreciation for you too, for kind of just featuring us and just getting the word about us. I mean, obviously you're kind of behind the camera, but you're up in the forefront too. So thank you for having me on the show, man.
I appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
Alrighty, Langston.
There's truly nothing that I love more than having amazing conversations with extraordinary people. Young Lee is definitely one of those people. If you ever get the chance to meet him, I highly suggest you do. Make sure you connect with him on social media. If you get the chance to meet him, he's just how he was on the podcast, down to earth, very insightful and very knowledgeable about the golf industry. I can't wait to see where his career goes over the next few years. And it was definitely a pleasure having him on the show, and I will definitely have him back. But before we go, check out my other podcast. It's called Talk of the Shore. It's a sports athletic podcast based around Maryland Eastern Shore Hawk Athletics, hosted alongside my good friend Raylan Wall as my co-host. And we basically get to sit down and get to know the players and the coaches outside of the jersey and off the field of play. It's available in an audio version and also visually on YouTube. Just search the hashtag TalkShore or Talk Up the Shore podcast. And if you're interested in playing some competitive amateur golf, check out the tour sponsored by Under Armour or the Tour on the Shore for more opportunities nationally and on the Eastern Shore of Maryland. Just visit esgmagazine.com and click on the tour info tab for more information to check out future tour UA stops in your area. The national championship is this weekend in Ocean City, Maryland, and I can't wait for it. It's going to be an incredible 3 days of golf, and we'll see who comes out on top. The only way is through. The Junior Tour powered by Under Armour, open for all junior golfer ages 6 through 18, is now over 500 golfers strong. 13 leagues across the nation will tee it up in 6 9-hole matches throughout the season, where the top 12 players in their age division will be named to the All-Star team and advance to the Under Armour Junior Golf Winter National Championship this fall in Bradenton, Florida at the IMG Academy Golf Course in February. It's going to take place President's Day weekend, the 12th to the 14th. For more information and to sign up, visit uagolftour.com. Fall registration opens this Friday, August 14th. The fall season begins in September, so don't wait to sign up because it's gonna go by quick. It's an absolutely incredible tour, and if you have juniors who love a competitive edge, this is for them. Connect with me on social media. I'm at Langston Fraser on Twitter and also on LinkedIn. Let me know who you want to hear from next and what topics you want me to cover using the hashtag TLFSPod. And also, most importantly, don't forget to subscribe, comment, and rate, and most importantly, don't forget to share the podcast. You can find the Langston Fraser Show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, Google Podcasts, and Anchor, along with so many more platforms. So subscribe today wherever you get your podcasts. Just search hashtag TLFSPod or The Langston Fraser Show. Until next time, I'm your host, Langston Fraser. Stay safe, healthy, practice safe social distancing, wear a mask, get outside, and definitely go play some golf. The weather's been great, and we'll see you back here next time for another episode of the Langston Fraser Show.